You're listening to the Smart Nonprofit Masterclass. I'm Jose Gomez, founder and CEO of nonprofitwebsites.com and Net Ministry. If you're a leader or founder of a nonprofit who wants to reach more donors, volunteers, members, supporters, and the community that you're serving using the power of the internet, I'm waiting for you in today's episode. So let's get growing. Hello, everybody. Man, it's been a while since I've been on the podcast. And so today I'm super excited to talk about something that's very, very important to me. And I think it's very important to nonprofits at large. And it's something that we call the Nonprofit Unifying Framework. Now, a little backstory on this. We've been serving nonprofits for over 20 years. We've worked with over 60,000 nonprofits around the world. And one of the things that we find over and over and over again is that there is a need to not only define the nonprofit, especially at the beginning, right? You're trying to figure out exactly who you are. You have a general idea of what you want to do, general idea of who you want to serve, but fleshing that out is a little tough, especially in the beginning. Even though the more experienced and more advanced nonprofits, ones that have been around for sometimes years, sometimes decades, are still kind of figuring that out. They're still struggling with exactly how to define, how to describe what they do. Now, at the very top level of nonprofits, they've got this thing down, right? They know exactly what their identity is, they know exactly who they're serving, what they're doing, and so they've had tons of meetings about this stuff, and they do things in a number of different ways, sometimes in roundabout ways, go through the process of discovery and rediscovery. But at the beginning, right at the beginning, or in the middle, as you begin to grow and continue to grow, there's going to be that need to define or redefine who you are. And so the Nonprofit Unifying Framework is something it's a name we gave to a very simple principle of how to define who you are, how to create direction, how to create substance to who you are in a way that allows you to communicate it effectively. And so today I just want to share that with you. I hope that it'll be, help to you, especially if you're starting out, and especially if you're in that currently right now in that phase or considering going into the phase of rediscovery, redefinition. So the Nonprofit Unifying Framework has three parts. I want to get right into this because I don't want to waste your time. The first part is the problem. So actually, I'll give you all three right at the beginning: the problem, the prescription, and then participation. So that's how your definition breaks up as a nonprofit. The first part, the problem, is the set of problems or issues that your nonprofit exists to solve or to address, whether it's homelessness, whether it's hungry children, whether it's single mothers in your community, whatever it is, it's the problem or issue that you're intended to address. Now, a lot of folks will just, run right through that. We're here to help single mothers. Well, help single mothers specifically with what? What's the problem that's happening? Don't get into too much of what you're going to do just yet, but you got to sit down and really define what the real issue is, the very real issue is that you're wanting to address or potentially completely solve, right? That's the first step of the unifying framework. We've got to figure out what the problem is. And let me tell you, there's some nonprofits that sometimes think they're exempt from this. For example, churches are a great one. They think the problem is defined, it's predefined for you, but not for every church. There's specialities that each church has, and there's special talents and approaches that churches bring because of the differences within their communities, within their demographics, within their approach to how they do ministry. But for nonprofits, I think that when you're a secular nonprofit, I think that need to define what the problem is, that what is the problem or issue that you're addressing or solving, I think is even more important because you don't have that kind of predefined or maybe a preconception of what that problem might be. It's not necessarily a spiritual problem, but there might be a very physical problem, like people going hungry in your community. But you have to sit down and you have to define that problem because that problem is going to be the hot button for later communication. It's the thing that you're going to consistently measure against as a nonprofit as you communicate with your donors, with your supporters, with your community. So get that problem down, write it down in as much detail, and even bullet point it if you can. Break it apart and say, okay, these are the 3 specific problems or the 5 specific problems. And if they break down even further, feel free to explore that. but you got to figure that out. What's the problem or issue you are solving? Okay. The second part of the Nonprofit Unifying Framework is the prescription. What is your prescription to solving or addressing those problems or issues? It's kind of like a person who's sick, right? A person who's sick goes to the doctor. They want to know what the problem is. And once they know what the problem is, they want to know what the doctor prescribes. And so you're the doctor in this case. You as the nonprofit leader or founder are trying to define the precise prescription that you're going to apply to that problem or set of issues, right? How are you going to solve this? How are you going to cure this? How are you going to treat it? Maybe it's not curable, but it's treatable. How do we mitigate all the consequences of those problems or issues using your approach? And you want to sit down and write that down. Now, this is where the fun part happens, because now you can apply all of your gifts and all of your resources to creating a very creative solution, right? This is the solution part, but back it down from solution. Think of it as a prescription. What's the recipe for solving this? All right, and sit down and write this down in as much detail as possible. Now, prescriptions include your programs. It includes the resources that you're applying. It includes the connections and networks that you have, right? So there's a lot of pieces to prescription. Doesn't have to just be the pill. Doesn't have to just be, we're going to give food to the homeless, problem solved, right? It's a bigger issue than that. So we have to address it in a number of different ways. Giving somebody a plate of food one time doesn't solve or even begin to address the problem of homelessness. So you want to create a very comprehensive recipe, a comprehensive prescription for solving or addressing those problems or issues that your nonprofit exists to address. And this is how validation is going to happen. Folks are going to measure, and you're going to be able to show measurement and success when you relate the problem or issue that you're addressing with the prescription, how effective it's been, and what the stats are about that or around that as you continue forward. So prescription is very important. The prescription, and the last part is participation. So once you know what problem you are there to serve, what problem or set of issues you exist to address or solve, and now you have a comprehensive prescription or solution to that problem. Now this is where nonprofits, really shine, is you create inlets for people to be able to participate in applying that prescription to the problem. That's a lot of P's there. So they get to participate in that. Now, participation can happen through giving, it can happen through volunteerism, it can happen through providing spiritual resources, for example, like prayer partners in a ministry. So there's a lot of ways that people can plug in to help. Maybe it's teaching. Maybe it's spending a few hours in a soup kitchen. Whatever it is, you've got to create ways for people to plug in a way to participate in what you are applying to these problems or issues. Now, once you start kind of pulling this together, you begin to realize how these things are all very related when you communicate. When you communicate, people are going to want to participate to the degree that they believe the problem exists and they believe in your prescription. So you can kind of pull all these things together over time to create a very comprehensive, a lot more elaborate presentation. But the three core pieces need to be in place first. So again, the problem, the prescription to solving or addressing the problems or issues that you're intended to address, you're created to address, and then what are the points of participation for people to be a part of what you're doing in your community that you're serving. It could be your local community or a global community, but it's still your community. Who are the people that you're here to serve, and how can people plug into doing that using your prescription applied to the problem or set of issues that you're created to address? Now, today's episode is super easy. I don't want to complicate it too much. I want you to really just absorb this very, very simple concept, because I talk to nonprofit leaders every day, all the time, thousands and thousands and thousands of them. And I'm going to tell you, 80% of them struggle with this issue. When I ask, what's the problem? What's the prescription? What points of participation are you trying to communicate? And many times they don't know. They don't know one part of that. They don't know all the parts of it. They've never thought of it ever in that way. So you've got to really pull this together. I want you to take some time to give it some thought. take some action, take a few moments to write down all the problems or issues your nonprofit exists to address. This should be as specific as possible and broken down as possible. Then write down your prescription to solving or addressing those issues. I mean, attack them one at a time and create a kind of a comprehensive recipe, right, that you're going to apply to solving these issues, and then include your programs, your strategies, any materials that you have, and then finally list all the ways people can connect to each aspect of that prescription, each aspect of it, and as a little bonus thing, maybe even talk about who would probably relate to the problems that you're trying to solve. So I hope this is really helpful for you today, guys. I didn't want to, inundate you with too much. This is the first time back in quite a while here, but thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for waiting around for me. And I promise we'll do this a little bit more often and get you more information to help your nonprofit grow. Thank you so much and have a great day. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Smart Nonprofit Masterclass. I hope that it challenged you in some way and provided you with the tools to effectively communicate your nonprofit's initiatives to the communities you serve. Now, I'd love to get more involved with your nonprofit and help you to increase donors, supporters, and community presence. My team's been doing it for over 2 decades. In fact, we're usually the team nonprofits call on when all the other agencies, service providers, and volunteers fail to provide the results that they're looking for. Sadly, it's usually after they spend way too much money figuring that out. Don't wait that long. We're looking for more nonprofits just like yours to serve and help grow. But we'll never have the chance to do that unless you reach out. So I'd like to point you to a free webinar that doesn't require any sort of email sign up. If you feel that we can help you after watching it, then book a call with me directly and we'll go over the ways we can best help you. Go now to nonprofitwebsites.com/apply. And I'll see you on the other side. Have a great day.